Did you know that not all TV stations are the same? They've got different ways that they are managed, owned, and operated. And that's what we're going to be talking about today when we look at a television station. We're actually going to be looking at the different types of stations. So at a quick glance, we've got four major types of stations that we have in our area. They're either going to be an owned and operated directly by the networks, called an O&O. There's going to be an affiliate station. So this is a small company that's going to show content from a major network, like an ABC, CBS, Fox, things like that. There's independent stations, which are not affiliated with any network. They're also known as like a mom and pop shop, where you may just have a person who says, you know what, I want a TV station of my own. I'm going to set one up, get the proper license, and go. And then the last type of stations we're going to look at is public television. So jumping right in, the O&O. This is a station that is owned directly by the network. So before 1999, a network could own a maximum of 5 stations. And then in 1999, the FCC met, they modified their policy, and they said that stations could now, or that networks could now own more than 5 stations, provided that the collective's group coverage didn't reach more than 39% of the United States households. So this was designed to, again, prevent a network from having monopoly of information. So ultimately, for a station that's owned and operated, or an O&O, they're going to report directly to the upper management of the network. So if the CEO of NBC says, I want this to happen, all their O&Os are going to be obligated to follow those policies and those changes that are brought forth by the president or the CEO. Now, they're still going to have their a normal leadership structure. You're going to have things like a news director or general manager, but whereas instead of reporting to the head of a small media company, they're reporting to the head of the network. Now, the second type of station is called an affiliate. Now, an affiliate is a group of stations that is owned by a media company. And they are going to carry, usually subscribe to a specific network, and they carry that network's programming and syndication. So there are going to be affiliates that are going to identify themselves as an NBC affiliate, and thus they carry all the programming and content that the NBC network would carry as well. But they do have the ability to have some variations of their own. And one of the things that they can also do is they can carry program that is being produced by other companies, and this is a program that is in what's known as syndication. And there are companies like King World, 20th Television, that are vendors for syndicated program. So if you've ever seen a game show like Wheel of Fortune, The Price is Right, Jeopardy, if there's afternoon programming like the Oprah Winfrey Show or the Ellen DeGeneres talk show, these were syndicated programs that are produced by a company, and then they sell copies of them to these affiliates and other people who are interested in airing them. And basically, they're either independently owned or they exist as part of a company. So there are affiliates that can be owned by a single person or a small group. But there's also a lot of times there's going to be media companies that may own hundreds of stations. And sometimes even these stations are different affiliates. So you may have a media company that's going to own an affiliate that has a CBS identification or an NBC identification. And this is going to work for them without creating a conflict of interest. So, for example, there was a media company called Raycom, and Raycom had a majority of stations in the Southeast United States. And so this one company owned all these stations. And again, they're not controlling more than 39% of the media that reaches other households. There was another company called Gray Media, which had more stations kind of in the Northeast a little bit, the North Central, not as much in the Southeast as Raycom. And they wound up merging together to combine their stations and, again, increase their coverage. But again, they're not reaching more than that 39% as stipulated by the FCC. Now, the third type of station is what's known as an independent. An independent is basically a person that says, you know what, I want my own station and I'm going to get the licensing to do it and broadcast. An independent can have their own content. They can fill it with syndicated program, or if they want, they can become an affiliate of a network without going through the other media companies. So independent stations do have the ability to either do their own thing or to kind of follow along with some of the other guidelines that are brought forth by other groups. So the last one, and I'm not inside the yellow suit. You happen to recognize who this big yellow guy is behind me? He is Big Bird. Hopefully you got that right. So Big Bird is a part of a group called the Public Broadcasting System, PBS. And these carry their station, or their content is carried by the public television stations. Now, these are stations that are often owned by local governments, universities, or school districts that have a variety of different types of content that they're going to put out. And the majority of these stations are part of the PBS, the Public Broadcast System, receiving a large portion of their programming from this service. And the remainder of their day is filled with syndicated program, and sometimes it's even locally originating programs. So in the case of Troy University, we have a public radio station which carries feeds from PBS and NPR, the National Public Radio, and the Public Broadcasting System. We also have content that we produce locally at our station, and we distribute it over the air. Now, one of the major differences between public television stations and the other ones we mentioned, the O&Os, the affiliates, and the independents, is they cannot advertise on air. They cannot sell promotions or products or endorse any type of service or product. And so because of this, they don't have as much funding as they would from the other stations that are selling commercials. So for public television stations and public radio stations, they wind up getting a lot of their programming and their funding through viewer support. They'll ask viewers and listeners to donate money to help them support their payroll and any expenses they have. They can also receive some funding from the government. They can receive grants that will provide them with money, and in some ways they can almost do advertising, but not straight up. They can have what's called underwriting, so they can tell you that this program was made possible through a grant by Ford Motor Company, or if they have another show that a Coca-Cola company has provided money for them to operate, well, they can say this program is available through a generous donation by Coca-Cola. But they're not going to be advertising their products or putting anything into the programming. They're just saying who provided the money for this programming. And so they're going to be getting a lot of income either from the grants, from the donations, and especially through the viewer membership. So once or twice a year, they may have a membership drive where they'll spend about a week asking their viewers and the listeners, hey, if you like our shows, help us out. Donate money to keep us up and running. And so that's one thing public television and public radio has, is that unique aspect of non-commercial, non-advertising, and it also gives them a different type of programming that they can offer to their viewers and listeners. So at a glance, those are going to be the four major types of stations that are going to be providing content through television and radio, or at least through television here in the